Welcome to the resurrection of a Scott CR1 frame. As you can see here, the frame is broken on the top tube. I got this one off of a friend who had a crash with it and decided to scrap it, but I said why not give it an attempt to maybe resurrect it and use it as a city bike. Beside the top tube, the seat tube also had a broken lacquer in place, so I had to check whether that one was broken as well. So I put the frame in a stand and I began sanding down the color, the paint, just to check what's the damage underneath. While assessing the top tube, it was apparent that the damage was full. I used a vibrating sand grinder just to check, try to remove as little paint as possible, little material as possible, just to fully assess the damage. Top tube was of course broken and needed full reparation. The seat tube, this is where the transparent lacquer was broken, but once I removed it, it seemed okay. Actually, there was no damage underneath on the carbon. Of course, some delamination may have occurred, I don't know, but it seemed okay. So what I did was I continued to remove the paint just to further assess the damage. The bottom bracket number also had to be removed. Unfortunately, this is just for evidence, it wasn't stolen or anything else. Removing the paint revealed that carbon fiber comes in different weaves, depending on the part of the frame, of course. Some are more rigid than others. Some places are hard to reach, so I had to use the sandpaper just by hand. Otherwise, I went through a number of these papers. I used grit, I believe, from 100 to 100, until I removed as little paint again as possible, but again to reveal the full carbon behind the frame, and then slowly prepare to fix it. So what I did next was I used regular tools, nothing special, apart from buying some epoxy resin, carbon weave, carbon fabric, and heat shrink wrap. I first needed to remove these cable guides. I just drilled them out. It was very simple, and then just broke them off of the frame. This didn't cause any further damage, but it allowed me to wrap carbon where I wanted to, and then I could, of course, put it back together, not a problem. So what I did, I mixed the epoxy resin. It comes in two components. You should use the ingredients and instructions as specified by the manufacturer. It needs to be very precise, so use a good scale. Of course, protect all the area because it will get really messy. Applying resin to the carbon, it needs to be applied really in thin layers. A little bit goes a long way. Carbon fiber fabric, when it's not impregnated, this is just a fabric like it is here. You need very sharp scissors and then cut a couple of pieces. So what I did here is I basically took two pieces to fix the top tube. I layered 3 layers across the top tube, and I also used one layer to go between, to sandwich it within it, and to go around the head tube as well. I wanted to just add a little bit more torsional rigidity, so that I'm sure I'm not going to make any weak spots here. These 3 layers, I believe, were good enough because it turned out to be thicker than the original carbon weave and the original layers on the original frame, so that looks good. Regarding the seat tube where the lacquer was broken, I also put a little bit of carbon, I think 1.5 layers, just in case some delamination occurred within it, to make sure it was okay. I then applied heat shrink wrap. It means I wrapped everything and then used a hairdryer on max setting, and it was good enough. It shrank it fully. It squeezed out all of the excess epoxy, and this is the mess I was left with. So yeah, make sure to find a good spot to work with this. It gets really messy. The next day I was greeted with this, a beautiful, beautiful carbon weave. Super smooth actually, so removing the heat shrink wrap gives me this, an incredible result. It looks fantastic, really. Can't fake these pics. It looks awesome. Of course, I would leave it as such, but I couldn't because the rest of the frame, of course, did not look like that. So as you can see, there are different weaves. I think mine is 4K or something. I forgot. It was 10 years ago when this was made, actually. So without the flash, this is what it looks like. So it was time to paint it, of course. I couldn't leave it like that. If nothing else, then for the UV protection. That begins, of course, with sanding down the frame again, preparing for painting. So I just sanded it down a little bit just to make everything matte so that paint would stick to it. Finally, the fork, yeah, the original fork was broken, the steer tube, so this one would not be fixed. Scratch that. I bought another one. This one was off of a Ghost bike, so not a Scott part, but it was the same geometry. I was looking at the same length, same rake, same everything, and it works well. So while not exactly the same, it's good. It's gonna fit. Cable guides, I just screwed them back in with using some epoxy resin, which was good. So this is tight in place. I used it for all of the cable guides that I needed to put back. Then, of course, I continued sanding a little bit just to make sure that everything is prepared for painting. And just a note here, I did not use any filler because I don't care about the scratches. This is going to be a city bike, so just filler, just primer, just to make sure the paint will adhere well. Before that, I of course used alcohol to wipe everything down, to prepare everything, and applied primer. And of course, I didn't mention yet, but use hand gloves, use masks, use protection, because you can't breathe this shit in, neither the carbon dust nor the paint dust. Okay, then I colored the whole frame in black. I knew I wanted it dark, but again, this is maybe too dark, so I said, okay, I wanted some contrast added. I then protected everything that was done in black, and I left exposed only the bits of the frame, the insides that I wanted to paint in a contrast color. I picked baby blue, and this is what I came up with. So the inner parts are contrasted in light color, where the outers are in black. I think it looks okay, but maybe a little bit of white could fit there, just to break the contrast a little bit further, right? So what I did was I just applied my signature there. Yeah, looks maybe kind of tacky, but I think it's okay. Why not? So this is the end frame that I came up with. So I think it doesn't look that bad, to be honest. Considering I have no experience in working with this, I think it looks okay. The paint is also good, even when looked up real close. So this is the original frame, the broken Scott that was meant for scrapyard, and this is the end result that I came up with, my new commuter bike, which means I only needed some additional bits to complete it. I managed to get a different bike of which I could pull some parts off, and this is what I got. I think it's fine for a commuter bike. It's a Dura-Ace crankset, the regular pedals, because of course it's a commuter bike, so no clipless there. It's got Ultegra derailleur. I think the front one is 105, Mavic Axiom wheels, 10-speed cassette, chain Ultegra R105, I don't remember anymore, while the front shifters are just 105 with the cables out, so ease of maintenance and smooth shifting. And this was my commuter for the last 10 years. The pics are old. The reason why I'm making this video this late is because this bike was refurbished now. So I can report 10 years of everyday use in every weather, and the carbon repair works just fine. I had no trouble with it, no cracking, no nothing. It works perfectly. The newly refurbished bike, this one that had another round of new life brought into it, I hope for the next 10 years. You can see in the next video that will be posted in a couple of days. But yeah, this turned out fine. 10 years later, this bike is still good. So I can happily say the repair was good, the job was okay. See you soon.